remarkably uneventful background I have for you. This was all plants, but we are dealing with a mealybug crisis right now. And I'm laughing so that I don't cry about this. My plants are my life, and I think that I brought in something from Home Depot. And now all of my plants that are like my children, my plants that came here with me to Chicago, the plants that I've gotten since being in Chicago that have like a special meaning to me, are covered in mealybugs. So everybody that was in that corner now lives on my back porch, so that hopefully a natural predator of a mealybug will feast on them. And if not, then they can all just exist back there by themselves with their mealybugs and get sun and whatever they need from the outdoors. I have several things to talk about. One of them being a very chaotic situation. I got an anxiety bookshelf. There are like 400 books in here, tiny little mini books, and the shelves are built in. I'm sure you've seen one of these before, but if not, you open the little latch and it opens, and all of the books are just in here, and they're all like actual little books. Like there's Sarah J Maas series in here. I threw away literally all the Colleen Hoover books in here, and then something about Jesus, because those two things are not allowed in my house. And they're so tiny but so detailed. There's A Court of Frost and Starlight. Look how detailed, A Court of Frost and Starlight. There's also like Crown of Midnight. There's tons of stuff in here. There's Frankenstein, Dracula, lots of classics, The Love Hypothesis. They're not accurate on thickness, because this thickness is for the Priory of the Orange Tree. And it should be like 3 times as thick. Anyway, so my husband and I went through this last night, and it was a lot of fun. Just like, we didn't sort anything last night. We just looked through it to see what all was in it. So that was nice. Yeah, so the goal is that you take everything out, you sort it when you just need to like ground yourself or chill or whatever. And then you can reorganize them and put them back onto the shelves, and then you can display it if you want to. But then when you get frustrated, you can just shake it up and do it again. Look, there's Babel. Assassin's Blade, Malibu Rising, Moby Dick, A Not So Meet Cute, Phantom of the Opera. Anyway, so this was 20 bucks on, or $26 on Amazon. I have 2 guests here with me, and you might hate this. You really might hate this, and I'm so sorry if you do. My 2 guests are very unique in their own little ways. These Lafufu ass creatures. I loved how the secret looked. This specific secret. This was $37 on AliExpress, and its little foot is stamped, honestly not too badly. Yeah, and it looks great. His face is a little bit lopsided, but I will be so honest with you, I do not give a flying fuck about authenticity when it comes to this kind of stuff. If I think it's cute, I think it's cute, and if it looks just like it, then that's fine. I'm gonna be okay with it. I love this one. This is the first one I got. Coat pattern, all the things that people are looking at is great. Stuffed well. I love the black ring and the black tag. And then this one I got at a street fest. It's one of the Have a Seats. I don't remember her name, but she has this little like resin foot piece. So probably fake as hell, but still cute. I think she's adorable. She matches my backpack, which is like a beige color. Anyway, I just think they're cute and they're new. So today I'm here to talk to you about 3 books that I've read. I just posted my last video yesterday, and I'm hoping to get caught up on what I've already read, because now I've already read more things. I think what I talked about a couple of books that I hadn't read yet at the end of the last video. So I've read Clear by Karis Davies. I've not yet read Pew. I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Let me check my Goodreads, hold on. Oh, and The Wedding People by Alison Esbeck. And then this morning I started the audiobook, which thank God I did. I started the audiobook for Woman Eating by Claire Coda, and you know what I am going to say. This is what I'm talking about. This is one page cover, red font, red accent panel, and it's perfect. I love an accent panel. I can't get enough of it. It's wonderful. I don't know her name yet, but the narrator for this, actually I'll look right now. The narrator for this audiobook, a dream this woman is. Jane Lu, L-U-I. This woman is, her voice is so gentle but hot but feminine. I should be using and not but. Gentle and hot and feminine. Love. I love. Oh, and can we talk about Spotify and like the best move? Something I've been begging for a hot minute. For an extra like $11 a month, you can add 15 more hours of audiobook time, like listening time. So you can get essentially, it would depend on what tier you have for Spotify Premium. Currently we have a family plan and we were paying like $24 or $22.99 a month for it, and I added on 15 extra audiobook hours to it, and I'm thrilled about this. First of all, I love Everand, so I will keep using them, and obviously Hoopla like is where I typically go for my classics, so I'm going to stay with that. Plus I want to support the library, but for anything else, no other platform will ever see me again besides Spotify. This just makes my life so much easier. I love. Anyway, you'll hear more about this later. I think this is just gonna be a fun short little thing, but so far it has turned out to be beautiful, and she could have used like predictive text and written this whole book and it would still sound marvelous, because this woman's voice is just wonderful. I'm here today to talk to you about Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman, and Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabahattin Ali. I'll be going back and forth between my laptop and my brain, I guess. So just to get details, because I feel like I read some of these a little while ago. The main thing I'm concerned about is Blue Sisters, because it's been like 3-ish months since I read it, so I don't want to miss out on any details that I should miss out on because I read it a hot minute ago. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, I thought was beautifully done. I think it was a really good book. Is it one of the greatest books of all time? No. Is it a great book? Yes. The premise, and also, can we just take a minute for this cover? And there's not an accent panel, but it's as close as you can get with a hardcover, I suppose. Is the font and the tones and then the inside of the book. It gives me coastal vibes, but 4 sisters, the Blue Sisters. What is how? I don't usually film this time of day. So there are 4 sisters, Bonnie, Lucky, Avery, and Nikki. And Nikki passes away. I won't tell you how because I can't remember, but she's passed away. And this pulls the entire Blue family back together. We wind up meeting Avery, who is the eldest daughter, eldest sibling, and very much has that complex. Which one of us don't? The youngest of my whole family, and still had to parent the whole goddamn lot. Every single one of them. Avery is the oldest sister, and she is like hyper anxious and just very kind of uptight and worried about everything being on her shoulders and having to keep everyone in line, and just is very much giving the eldest sibling situation. Bonnie is a fighter, and she is in, I think, New York. I could be crazy, but I think New York. Lucky is a model, and she's in Paris mostly. I can just read you the inside cover. The 3 Blue sisters are exceptional and exceptionally different. Avery, the eldest and recovering heroin addict turned straight-laced lawyer, lives with her wife in London. Bonnie, a former boxer, works as a bouncer in Los Angeles, following a devastating defeat. And Lucky, the youngest, models in Paris while trying to outrun her hard partying ways. They also had a 4th sister, Nikki, whose unexpected death left the family reeling. A year later, as they each navigate grief, addiction, and ambition, they find they must return to New York to stop the sale of the apartment they were raised in. But coming home is never as easy as it seems. As the sisters reckon with the disappointments of their childhood and the loss of the only person who held them together, they realize that the greatest secrets they've been keeping might not have been from one another, but from themselves. Also, Coco Mellors is who wrote Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Oh, this is how I keep losing these. I just use them as bookmarks in books, and then I put the book on the shelf, and then I'm like, where did all my tabs go? Each of the Blue sisters has a very different kind of voice, but somehow Coco Mellors managed to write them in a way that makes it very apparent that they're related, or at least it's how it seemed to me. They all fit pretty well as a group, as a family, not a group, as a family. I think it was like beautifully real and messy and just perfectly done. There were some really comical moments where like dark humor was made about death, like jokes about like, oh, oh, Nikki left us in this situation. Ugh, I could just punch her in the throat. And Bonnie the boxer says this, and another, I think it's Avery, is like, you're a fighter, you could kill her. And then Bonnie says, too late. It's too late for that. She's dead anyway. And it's early on in the book, so it sets the tone of their like sibling camaraderie and how they talk with each other and their banter, sibling banter, there it is. The back and forth between them was really good. It definitely felt cathartic in a way. I don't have siblings. I had a fucked up like family situation when I was younger, so it feels like I have siblings, but they're like my parent and my biological parent and then her siblings. And then my grandparents, all of whom I've had to parent in some way or another, which is crazy because I'm only 30 and they're all 50 and 70 and dead. This was a very cathartic thing, I think, to read, or it seemed like the whole experience was cathartic, and I'm a little bit jealous of people with siblings who get to have that kind of emotional connection with their siblings. I'm very envious of what that dynamic in life must feel like. At the same time, I have found that my chosen and found family that are not biological to me have turned out to be a lot better than the other one. This is not a very fast-paced book, and it's not very, it just feels normal. And when I say this, it's like, I remember reading Sally Rooney's Normal People, and I didn't like this book because I felt like it was pointless. It was just like, you insert at one point in two people's lives, you watch them over a certain period of time, and then you exit at another random point, and nothing really happened. No one really grew, nothing was really different. It was kind of like that here, but this is not Sally Rooney, this is Coco Mellors, and the story was better in general. The pacing and the build was good, but it did feel like a slow burn through the emotions that all of the sisters in the family were feeling, and it's just a really interesting read to me. Like, I am very interested in how other people feel about certain things, and this was just a really cool exhibit in sibling dynamic and family dynamics that I've never had like a peek into. A specific line that stuck with me from this was when, I think it was Avery was having like a meal at a restaurant with her mom, and her mom was like basically saying like, I had kids because it's just what you did. Like, I didn't necessarily want 4 kids. I just had kids because I was supposed to, and here I am. And they go back and forth about this, and then at some point the mom leans over and like, I think is just like puts her hand on Avery's arm on whatever table, and is just like, you're not important. It was so out of left field that I was just like, what? And then after a minute I was like, you know what? Nobody really is, except Taylor Swift. And it was just like, that's the thing that I remember from this book, is how it made me feel reading it, how nice it was to be able to feel like I was a part of that family dynamic and not have to bear the emotional burden of actually, the emotional and lifelong burden of actually being a part of that kind of family. And that line from the mom, just reinstating into her daughter's head, who is like this control freak and tries to keep everything, you know, just snatched up tight in the fist of control, and not like letting anything slip, or, you know, just letting anything out of her grip. Just, you're not important. Nothing you do is important. You're gonna be dead one day, and someone somewhere, lots of people, are never gonna know that you live. So the thing that you're stressing about so much doesn't really matter. Ultimately, in 10 years, it's not gonna matter. So I rated this, God, Goodreads is useless, isn't it? I gave it 5 stars, which is kind of crazy. I said before that when I give something 5 stars, that's either like, that was great, there's nothing wrong with it, I had a good time, or 5 stars is like, it's the greatest thing I've ever read, it's goated. Sure, it's not fair, but it's a spectrum. So, Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. Pick it up, put it on your wall, put it on your shelf, put it in your brain. It's good. One more thing about Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I was looking at it on Goodreads, and I'm almost never on Goodreads on my laptop. It's always on my phone. But I was on my laptop today just looking at Goodreads, seeing if it was any different on desktop than it is on the phone. God, they could use an update beyond the icon. But the reviews on it are just brutal. Like, this book is perfectly just fine, or remarkably just fine. Someone wrote that, and I know that some books are trash, sure, but for something that you gave 3.5 stars, you're just being mean. like flat out mean, and that's cyberbullying essentially for a book that did nothing wrong. It's so bizarre to me that people are just ripping authors apart for a 3-star review. If you're being a bitch in a review, you should be like leaving it a 1 star or a half star or a 0 star or something, but not just being mean. That's crazy to me. But then again, I care a lot about very few things. So next up, Madonna in a Fur Coat by Sabahattin. This book was 3 stars for me throughout the whole thing, except the very beginning and the very end. And the very end, with like a chaser of the beginning wrapping around to just kind of help round things out, I gave this 5 stars. And that's gonna sound crazy considering if you know me in real life and you've heard me talk about it. This book is tiny. There's like 200 exact pages. And when I tell you, this is page 1, okay? This is the entirety of the book. This much of the book sucked. This much of the book right here was just a man living a day in the life of the male loneliness epidemic and complaining about it, just like men on the internet do in 2025. The beginning tells you about Raif Effendi, who is a translator at a company that the unnamed narrator gets a job at by chance. The book starts out with the narrator, we never find out this person's name, running into an old, like, obnoxious friend who is like a manager or supervisor at a translation company, and he runs into this guy and he's like, oh, how's it going? And then this big obnoxious guy, not big, this obnoxious guy was just like, oh, do you have a job yet? And the guy's just like, no, I don't have a job, like I'm unemployed and everything sucks and I have no money. And so obnoxious bro gets narrator a job at this translation company doing God only knows what. This is where the narrator meets Raif Effendi. He is put in the same office as Raif, and Raif never says a word to him, basically. Like, they sit and stare. Well, Raif stares at his desk and his translations and just inside his desk drawer every day for many days on end. I don't remember how long this was. I don't remember how long this was, but, and the narrator just sits there staring at him most of the time, wondering why he doesn't speak or look up or isn't more personable, or pointedly, he gets yelled at. Raif Effendi gets yelled at in front of the narrator by the guy that got the narrator the job, the boss of both of them, for a problem that was the boss's fault, but he took it out on Raif to just be an asshole and to, like, it was like a power play, I guess. And Raif just doesn't say anything. He just sits there. Like, he doesn't care. There's nothing, no anger, nothing. Anyway, so then essentially Raif gets sick, can't come to work, and the narrator takes work to his house, and that's where he gets to finally sit and talk with Raif, and they essentially find that they really like each other in a platonic way, of course. They really like each other. They're chatting about something life-based, and then the narrator is just like, I wish we could have gotten to know each other more. Like, I would love to just talk to you. There's so much that I don't know about you, whatever. Raif is like, hey, go to my office, look in my drawer, get this little black book out of there, bring it to me. And so he does. The narrator brings it to him, and then Raif is like, burn it, throw it away, get rid of it. And the narrator convinces him to let him keep it. The middle of the book, the part that I say sucked, was the narrator reading the diary, basically, of Raif Effendi's life, and it's a chronological catalog of his life as it pertains to Maria Puder, who is an artist, a Turkish artist. They meet, and she becomes his object of affection, and he is strictly platonic, just a friend to her. And she makes it very clear that there is maybe not very clear, but she makes it clear that nothing's happening between them. Not a lot did, except for one time, and essentially they begrudgingly agreed to have sex on like a New Year's Day situation. And so then that is the whole middle of the book, and it's just this man pining for this woman that doesn't want him in that way. But they wind up living their life together, and then they get separated with the intention that they'll get back together, and they never do because she died. Spoiler. When was this published? Originally published in 1943 and then 2016, so almost 10 years ago. You'll be fine. The last part of the book that saved it for me was essentially Raif's reflection on everything. His reflection on the fact that he spent his life alone. The writing in this book almost felt lyrical, but like I said, the last like 30-40 pages is what saved this book for me. The reflection on life was really beautiful. The writing about that part was just lyrical prose. It was wonderful. I loved it. It was just so well written, like Martyr level writing good. And you've heard me talk about Martyr. It's on my all-time favorite shelf above the TV. I cannot recommend the very beginning and the very end of this book enough. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to read the beginning and the end of this. Also, if you're interested in translated fiction, this was available. It was originally published in Turkish and translated to English by Maureen Freely and Alexander Daw. I think that a fair way to sum it up is that it's not a very plot heavy book, but it lingers. Like, I haven't forgotten that. Everything I told you about this was just in my memory. And it's been a minute since I read this as well. The ending, I think, was just quietly devastating. And that's what just grabs on in like the back of your mind or my psyche. It's just like, hey, you read this. Don't forget how this was written. I loved the end of this so much. The writing of the end, not the situation. I don't care about the situation, just the writing. I found beautiful enough to take it upon myself to take pictures of every page of that last section and scan it into a notes app on my iPhone and then copy and paste the text into one long situation and post it in my Facebook group for my book club so that like others would have the chance to read it if they didn't get through the book or if they DNF'd the book, because it would be understandable to DNF the book halfway through. I gave it 5 stars because of the ending and the concept of the fact that like the whole book was another man's diary, but we saw him die. Last but not least, by any means, The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. This book was heartbreaking in every way. Heartbreaking. Tom and Isabel, I think it's in Australia. Tom and Isabel are really just kids when they meet. Not kids, they're just super young people when they meet, and they get married, and Tom has come to be the lighthouse keeper on an island. So he's on the island by himself. He's the only person on the island. That's it for 6 months at a time, I think. Long stretches at a time, and then ship will come and drop off supplies or take them back if they need to go back to the like main island for anything, whatever. Like I said, I think it was Australia that this happened. So not happened, that this was set in. I don't know if it's true. Anyway, so Tom and Isabel are the couple that wind up being married, and they're on the island together, and they're having a grand old time until one day a little boat washes up with a dead man and a live baby in the boat. And this is the book I was telling you I've had since 2012, and it's yellowing before my eyes. It's not gonna do that. The light's too bright from outside. It's not gonna show you, but it's yellowing around the edges, which is making me real sad about being old. But Isabel has had like 4 or 5 or 6 miscarriages at this point, and they're on the island by themselves, so she's just been like spiraling into a psyche. She's done fairly well with it all, given she's trapped on an island with, she's not trapped, she's voluntarily there, on an island with her husband and only her husband, so she doesn't have anyone else to talk to, no other moms that may have had miscarriages, whatever. So when this baby washes up, it's a newborn, she of course is like, give me my baby, give the baby to me, it is mine. And so they talk about it and they keep her, despite Tom being like real fucking freaked out about it and being like, no, this is wrong, I'm supposed to report everything. Part of Tom's mental health is hinged on the diary that he keeps for the job, where he's supposed to log what happens every day, and if there's anything amiss, he's supposed to write it down. The day that this like boat and baby wash up, he doesn't write anything down because his wife begged him not to, so that they could keep the baby. They wind up keeping the baby, and then the next time they go to the main island, they find that another woman has been widowed because her husband was German, and they didn't like that he was a German, so they made fun of him, and they essentially chased him like a wild mob with pitchforks and torches to the from town with his wife and his baby. He has his baby, and he runs and gets on a boat, and the boat goes out to sea, and he doesn't have, I'm assuming, paddles or any way to like handle everything, but he, I think, had a heart attack and died on the boat from the stress of what was happening. They bury the guy and they keep the baby, but when they go back to land, they find that they find the widow of this man, and that her daughter is missing, and she is in this like crazy hypnotic kind of state, understandably, that she thinks both her daughter and her husband died at sea, and her husband did, but her daughter did not. And so Tom and Isabel have this baby, and I forget what they named her, but they have this baby with them that's like now a toddler, and that calls them mom and dad, that they have posed as their baby that they just had yeah, they just start freaking out about it, and Tom has some like random, it's Hannah something I think is the widow's name, and he has some like interactions with her, and apparently he met her once in the past, but they didn't know that that's who the other was. Just everything about this was sad, and there's a point where like Tom can't take it anymore, he goes crazy, so he goes to the police basically in this town and is like, hey, here's what happened. So he goes back with them to get Isabel and this baby that is not their baby, but that's who they've raised, and that little girl thinks that that's her mom and dad. For the little girl, it was devastating to read. I did the audiobook for this too, but it was devastating to hear like the account and how accurately written I believe this was of that kind of account of just a little kid being ripped away from who she believes is her parents who have raised her. Just a very unique situation, and I thought it was really cool. Not cool, a really cool idea for a book. Not a real life situation. Anyway, I gave this 5 stars because I thought it was great. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. I thought it was awesome. It was just awesomely written, absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah, a great phrase to describe this is that the pacing builds slowly but culminates in an absolute gut punch. And the question that obviously is in front of us is almost like the train track ethical dilemma, is like, does this challenge your sense of right and wrong? And it certainly did, because I would have fucked Tom up as well if I had been Isabel. I raised this baby, I saved this baby, I know it's somebody else's, but I've lost 6 kids in miscarriages and I'm devastated over it, and all I want is to be a mom, and you're telling me a free orphaned baby, as far as I know, washes up on the island that I live on by myself with no witnesses. Obviously it's fiction, it's too good to be true. Oh, I know. Oh, I never noticed that. The cover's the lighthouse, right? On the back cover, that's a baby. I've always been looking at it like super up close and apparently in poor lighting. Oh my gosh, that's cool. Even more devastating. Wow. I probably would have done what Isabel did and probably would have been like, listen girl, go mourn your baby. This one's mine. And is that right? No. Is it wrong? Probably. Yes. Do I care? No, because this is a fictional book. And if that happened somewhere else, I'm very sorry that it happened to whoever it happened to. I believe that's all I have to say about these guys. God, I shed like a dog that's never been in touch with a brush. That's all I got, you guys. I'm tired. The sun's going down. I hope you enjoyed this. If you've read these books, let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you've read and what you thought about them. If we shared any of the same thoughts about the outcomes or the ending or the plot or anything. If you've read Woman Eating, let me know how you like it. If you've read the audiobook, go ahead and just leave a comment below and tell me how hot you thought the narrator's voice was. And I will see you in the next one.